What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's transfers hits for game week 7. So I'm going to go through some of the popular players being put into people's teams or being taken out and give my opinion on whether they are good moves or not. So let's get into it. So let's start with Mo Salah. No midfielder has had more transfers out than him so far this week. I suspect a lot of people that didn't do the Salah-Haaland switch last week are regretting it and are now maybe doing it for game week 7. Perhaps you free hit 6 to get Haaland and have now decided you want him long term. Or maybe you're on a Salah-Haaland draft. You were waiting to decide which one of the two to sell, and now you can't get rid of Haaland, so it's got to be Salah. Either way, he is being sold in game week 7 ahead of Chelsea away. Is it the correct decision? Right now, he's really testing the theory that short-term samples don't matter, especially when you've got lots of seasons of data, because we know how good Salah can be, but the first 6 game weeks has been really poor in terms of his underlying data. He's running at 0.15 non-penalty expected goals per 90, 0.12 expected assists. Now, obviously, there's value with him because he plays 90 minutes and he's on penalties. But if you factor that in, 90 minutes penalties, and then the underlying numbers he's got at the moment for the first 6 weeks, he's basically Paquetá, all right, who's less than 6 million right now. You can pick him up for 5.9. So if Salah performed as he's done so far for the rest of the season in terms of underlying numbers, that is Lucas Paquetá, right? That's not good enough for 14.5, but I don't think we should be writing him off so far because we know how good he can be, and you would expect those performance levels to improve. And they've got pretty good fixtures coming up. Like Chelsea away is not great, but they are missing Chalobah through suspension, and Tosin will probably miss out through injury. Man United at home, good fixture. Brentford away, good fixture, and then Villa at home in game week 10. It's not bad. So I wouldn't panic on Salah, but if you're thinking about going to Haaland, it is difficult to make the case that Salah is the better option right now. Haaland, for example, is averaging over 1 XG a game. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, the reality is over the next few weeks, like maybe 5-10 game weeks, it's likely that Haaland's numbers will come down a bit and Salah's will go up, but it's still going to be difficult to make the case that Salah's the better premium. All I can basically say is, as someone that sold Salah, I don't feel any pressure to get him back right now. I could roll this week and get him back in game week 8 without even selling Haaland, and I'm probably not going to do that. I'm probably just going to improve the rest of my squad instead, because I can only captain one player every week, and it's difficult to look past Haaland for 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then in game week 11, they play each other, and Salah's the one away from home. Haaland's at home. So even if you were going to captain one of the two in game week 11, it's probably Haaland. So game week 12 is probably when I want Salah back. And look, all it takes is a hat-trick against Man United. All of a sudden we start panicking a little bit. But right now that pressure is just not there. And we know he's going to get goals and assists, right? He's too good not to. But is he 14.5 million? I still think Salah and Haaland drafts are viable, by the way, because there's so many good cheap options. But that is not going to be the way that I set my team up, I don't think. Not for a little while anyway. I'll come back to it in game weeks 12 or 13. So he's too good for this to continue. The numbers will improve. It's just about how quickly they will do it. And also, this doesn't always work like this, of course, but it feels very much like last season. You know when a lot of us sold Haaland in game week 10, and when we did it, it was like, you can't sell Haaland, he's too good. Game week 11, no, you can't make that switch. Haaland will still come good. Are you not worried? And it went on for weeks, and people kept Haaland. It really didn't go too well. It does feel a little bit like that right now with Salah. That you just can't let go because of how good he is. But the longer it goes on, it almost becomes more difficult to let go because you don't want to miss the haul. Now, I'm not saying it'll be like that. I think last year was a bit of an anomaly. But if I'm taking one or the other right now, it's Haaland. Like if I was wildcarding this week, I'd go Haaland. If I was wildcarding in game week 8, I'm pretty sure I would go Haaland as well, despite how good Salah looks 8 to 10. So I think it's okay to let go of him, but I wouldn't panic. If you're on a Salah Haaland draft, as long as the rest of the team looks good, you can just keep hold of him for now. But you can only captain one of them every week. And I just don't see many people going against Haaland. If you want a differential, Salah is going to be huge, 8 to 10. And you could argue he's a better option than Haaland in each of those weeks because of the fixtures. But there's not much in it. There really isn't. The other thing is just Liverpool in general. Like maybe there's just a bit of a balance issue there that Slot's still trying to work out. Like you've got all these great attackers, but now he's got to try and fit them in. Like Gakpo gets benched. We're going to talk about him in a minute. You kind of need him on the left. Then if you play Wirtz, you've got to play Szoboszlai at right back, or you've got to bench Szoboszlai or McAllister. It's just not quite clicking. But I say that for a team that's top of the league and will probably have a really good chance of winning the whole thing. So, I don't know, it feels like something's not quite right, but Liverpool are mostly winning. I know they lost to Palace. and Salah still got returns. I don't know. All I can say is I don't feel any pressure to get him back right now. But if I had him, I wouldn't be in a panic unless I didn't have Haaland. And even then, you've missed the really good fixture for Haaland. He's perfectly good captain 7 to 10, but it's not like missing Burnley at home. So I think you can keep him if you want, but if it's one or the other, and that's your choice, it's Haaland right now. It has to be. So as I've just mentioned him, let's talk about Cody Gakpo next. Benched against Crystal Palace in game week 6. Did come on at half time, so got 45 minutes, but it's not what you want from an FPL pick. And even the game before that against Everton, he started, but he was subbed on 60 minutes. So the first 4 game weeks, he plays 90 minutes every single week. Then against Everton, it's 60, Palace, it's 45. This is a sign of things to come, basically. And I don't want to keep saying that everything last year that happened is going to happen again, but it does seem very similar to Diaz, for example. First 4 or 5 game weeks for Liverpool, he got close to 90 minutes, if not 90 in every single game. Then when Champions League kicked in, and they had lots of attackers to choose from, you were never quite sure if he was going to start, and if he did start, whether he gets subbed early. That's what's going to happen to Gakpo now. I personally think that Liverpool at the moment are better with Gakpo in the team, so I think he will start the majority of games. But if you look at the next 4 game weeks, no one can guarantee you he's going to start all 4. It might be 3. And missing a game is really frustrating. And even in those 3, maybe 4 games he starts out of the next 4 game weeks, how many minutes would he get? Would he get subbed on 60, 65, 70? He's just not worth it for 7.6 million. You do not need this uncertainty with your FPL picks. Like you look at someone like Semenyo, he's only a little bit more expensive. Or you can drop down to like an Enzo Fernandez or an Ismail Sarr for less than 7 million. So not only do you get guaranteed starters, you also save some money you can invest elsewhere. So I think long term, Gakpo has to go. You don't necessarily need to panic this week. Even if he starts in the Champions League, he could start against Chelsea as well. And there's every chance that he does that. But it's not a guarantee. It won't be a guarantee that he starts against Man United, etc., etc. For what it's worth, I think he probably does start against Chelsea and Man United. But there's no way I can guarantee it. And what I can guarantee is that he'll probably get subbed early in both games. I think not the idea, but the chance of him playing 90 minutes regularly now, it's just not going to happen. So you don't have to hit him out. You don't even have to panic about selling him this week. But you need to start having a plan of when you're going to move him and who for, because he's no longer an FPL pick for me. Speaking of Sarr at Crystal Palace, it was a nice reminder in game week 6 against Liverpool about how good of an FPL pick he is. 6.4 million, so great value. 3.4% ownership, so big differential. Playing a strong Crystal Palace side, and outside of Mateta, he's their main goal threat. The underlying data is really good. It was great last year as well. He always starts when he's fit and available. The minutes are good. There's nothing negative to say about him. And if you want to pick him up or put him in your team on wildcard, or if you need a cheap midfielder this week, I would definitely look at him. I would say there's no rush to pick him up because it is an away game this week against Everton. Palace are definitely capable of scoring in that game, absolutely. But it's not necessarily a fixture you go out of your way to target. Bournemouth at home in 8 is fine. And then Arsenal away in 9 is tough. So next 3 game weeks don't scream essential. But if you need a cheap midfielder for the long run, I would just pick him up. Because game week 10 onwards looks pretty good. Brentford at home, Brighton at home, Wolves away. And this is a guy that's only played 4 matches, already scored 3 games. I'm absolutely gutted that I picked him up for Villa. He scored. Obviously, that's good. I'm not gutted about that. But he picked up an injury. To miss Sunderland at home and West Ham away, like what could he have done in those games? So he's just a really good pick. I'm just waxing lyrical about him. Brentford at home, Brighton at home, Wolves away, 10 to 12. But even after that, Man United at home, Palace are the better team right now. They'll win that game. Burnley away, Fulham away, not quite so good. Then City at home, but they'll give City a game. Then Leeds away, Spurs at home. Like the fixtures are just pretty good for quite a while. There's no reason to take him out of your team once you buy him, unless he gets injured. Like 6 point. I was saying the other week, I think when we were talking about Grealish and stuff, there's not a huge amount of 6 to 7 million midfielders that I'm super excited about. I quite like Njai, for example. Enzo Fernandez is definitely an option, especially while Palmer is out. But Sarr's right up there now. He's back from fitness, and he's arguably the best pick. So yeah, I really like him. The only, I guess you could put it as a slight negative, is Europa Conference League matches are starting up now for Palace. That's something they didn't have to tackle last year. Maybe that's part of the reason that Sarr was subbed at 74 minutes against Liverpool. He was also just back from injury as well. But they've got Europa Conference League midweek, then Premier League, then another Premier League match, then Conference League again. So you're going to have a couple of times where they've got midweek fixtures. And Crystal Palace don't necessarily have massive squad depth to deal with that. So can Sarr go and play 90 minutes week in, week out? Probably not. But I still think he'll get enough minutes to be great. But that's maybe another reason to put it off until game week 10. Because that game week 10 fixture against Brentford happens, after. In fact, it happens after 2 Europa Conference League games and an EFL Cup game against Liverpool. So that will, basically, Palace got 6 games before they played Brentford. So they've got the Everton, Bournemouth and Arsenal games, and then 2 Conference League plus an EFL Cup game. That's going to give you a good idea of not only his fitness levels right now after getting that injury, but also how many minutes he's going to play. So it's maybe, I think waiting until game week 10 is probably a good strategy. But I tell you now, if you're asking me this week, I need a 6.5 million midfielder or below, I'm going to say Sarr. I would just pick him up right now because I suspect the minutes will still be good enough to warrant him in with the with the data that he is putting up and the goals he's scoring and stuff like that. So Pedro Porro was benched against Wolves in game week 6. Thomas Frank set up with Spence at right back and Udogie left back, which shows us that that's something he's willing to do moving forward, which obviously puts a bit of concern on Porro's minutes. Now, I wouldn't panic if you're an owner just yet, because I don't think it's going to be a case where he misses one game and starts the next, misses the next one, starts the next. He's still going to start the majority. Spurs are a better team with him at right back than Spence, in my opinion. I suspect that a lot of Spurs fans would agree. It's not that Spence is bad. I just think that Porro is very good. So I think he will start the majority. If he starts the Champions League game midweek, obviously you're going to have some doubts now about whether he starts against Leeds, but I suspect he'll be in that team. He's not going to need a rest every other game. So I think he could start game week 7. He absolutely could start game week 8 as well. So if you're an owner, I wouldn't go out of your way to sell him. I certainly wouldn't take a hit to do it or anything like that. But obviously in the back of your mind, you can't completely trust him. So long term, if you get a spare transfer to deal with him, I would get rid. And obviously you can't buy him now. To be honest, I would avoid Spurs defence anyway. I don't think the fixtures coming up are that great. They're okay, but I don't think it's the right time to buy a Spurs defender. Also, if you're not buying Porro, you're just going to buy Romero. But he hasn't travelled for their Champions League game, apparently as a precaution. So he might have a slight knock at the moment. So Spurs defence in terms of buying, I would just avoid. I would not include them on wildcard either. But if I've got Porro, I'm not panicking just yet. I think he will start against Leeds. It's a pretty good fixture. There's every chance he starts against Villa as well. So you can keep him for now. But if you want to sell, obviously lots of options. Like Senesi is still one to pick up right now. Gabriel, if you've got the money to go Porro to Gabriel and a spare transfer this week, that looks like a great option. So someone like that you could definitely move him on for. But yeah, it's a bit like Gakpo. I don't think you need to panic, but long term, I probably would just get rid. So sticking to Spurs, I've had a few questions about what to do with Xavi Simons. He did start against Wolves, but was subbed on the 77th minute with the blank. He obviously got benched the game before that as well. Is he still a good option going forward? I think this is a classic FPL, don't buy, don't sell. I don't think there's much justification to pick him up right now, even though the fixtures are quite good over the next 2 to 3, because for less money, you can go and get Kudus at the same club, who looks like he's going to play 90 minutes most weeks. Then you've got Enzo Fernandez playing number 10 for Chelsea at the moment, possibly next in line for penalties after Cole Palmer. I've just spoken about Sarr. Njai is still not terrible, even though you've missed the West Ham game. I just don't think I could buy Xavi Simons right now, so I wouldn't bring him in, but I also wouldn't sell him. He's already in your team now. He has started 2 of the first 3. You would suspect that his minutes will go up longer term, and it is Leeds away than Villa at home. So I think I would keep him for now, but I wouldn't include him on a wild card or anything like that, and I certainly wouldn't buy him. And I've got to hold my hands up. I definitely overestimated what his minutes would be. I just thought he was the kind of player, because of the issues that Spurs had at number 10 and stuff like that, he would just come in and start playing 80 to 90 right away. And maybe that was just a mistake. Well, it literally was a mistake to think that, because that's not what's happened, right? He's played against West Ham, then he's got benched against Brighton, then he's only played 77 against Wolves. So he's not looking quite as good as I expected, but I would expect him to get better. How many games is he going to play over the next 4 or 5 weeks? I'm not sure, but it's not enough doubt to sell him. But I don't think you can justify picking him up right now, apart from the fact he's quite a differential. Thiago at Brentford, just 6 million, started every game so far. Not only that, but in those 6 matches, he's already scored 4 goals. Not a bad return for 6 million. I wouldn't get too excited about him just yet, though. 1, he's not going to play Man United every week. But 2, the fixtures coming up are not that great. Man City at home this week, then it's West Ham away in 8, which is not so bad, but obviously Nuno is there now. He might improve them a little bit, especially defensively. Then it's Liverpool at home in 9, Palace away in 10, Newcastle at home in 11, Brighton away in 12. There's not really any fixture there outside of West Ham that I would get that excited about. But he is just 6 million. He is starting every single game. And I think there's a chance he will get penalties as well. Because Sarr missed the last one. Obviously, Thiago took one before that and scored. So I think he might get penalties back. And obviously, that's really good value. And if you're looking 6 million or below, there's not a huge amount of other options. Munir's obviously missed the last game for Fulham, so you can't necessarily go there right now. Calvert-Lewin at Leeds is definitely competitive for less money and with better fixtures. But outside of those two, there's not really many other players. So I think for Thiago, if you're on wildcard and you want to set up with a structure of a cheap forward, you could definitely go for him. I think if you're looking to downgrade a forward to put money elsewhere, you could definitely consider him, especially if he goes in as like an 8th attacker or someone you don't have to play every week because you're going to play a back four or something like that. But I wouldn't be targeting him to bring in and just play every week. I looked at this guy in pre-season, couldn't quite go there. I looked at him on wildcard 4 as well. I just didn't like the fixtures. So I think that point still stands. The fixtures are a bit horrible. But for 6 million or below, if you've got a potentially penalty taken forward, he's still worth considering, depending on how you want to structure your squad. But if you're sat there with Evan Nielsen or Watkins or João Pedro and you're going a single transfer move to Thiago, just not worth it. It's someone who's looking specifically for a cheap forward for cash or is on wildcard. So I just wanted to quickly talk about Senesi at Bournemouth, who's gone up from 4.5 million at the start of the season to 4.9. And I think sometimes in FPL, there's a tendency to be stubborn about players that have gone up in price if you're late to get on them. So if a lot of other people got him at 4.5, 4.6, there's that feeling of, well, I'm not going to pay 4.9 when everyone got him cheaper. I guess my main point here is he's still a really good option. Even if he goes up to 5 million, he's definitely worth considering. He's the only defender in FPL this season that's got defensive contributions in 6 out of 6 games. Now, he's not going to continue that, right? If he plays 38 games this season, he's not going to get it 38 times, but he might get it 25 or 30 times. That's a lot of extra points for a defender that still costs less than 5 million. And it's not a fluke, obviously. It can never be a fluke with defensive contributions. You've literally got to contribute. He's on 13.17 per start. You only need 10 as a defender to hit those +2 points. So at this rate, he's going to do it a lot of times. Bournemouth defence is also pretty good. And I think the fixtures are pretty decent coming up as well. Like Fulham at home, more than happy to play him in that. Palace away is difficult, but he'll probably get defensive contributions in that game. Forest at home, I think, is pretty good. City away in 10, difficult. Villa away, if you had to play him, you would. And then West Ham at home in 12 is good. And I think, as a triple Bournemouth owner, the fixtures are pretty good after that as well. Let me just get the correct player up here. So West Ham at home in 12. Yeah, Sunderland away in 13. Everton at home in 14. Pretty good. Chelsea at home, Man United away, not quite so good in 15, 16. But then Burnley at home, Brentford away. And okay, then it's Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs, Brighton. It's a bit tougher. But long term, you've got a player that's going to pick you up +2 points quite regularly. And they've got quite a few clean sheet potential fixtures in there as well. I think basically he's comparable to Tarkowski. Now, Tarkowski didn't get defensive contributions last night for the first time this season. Like I said, these players are not going to pick them up every single week, but he does it a lot. He was the most last season. He would have picked it up 22 times if defensive contributions were a thing last year. Everton defence pretty good. Same as Bournemouth. Pretty good defence, pretty good fixtures, and he's less than 5 million. So all I'm really saying is don't be stubborn about it. I don't think it's worth going to like Diakite for less money. If you've got the money to pay for Senesi, you just do it. It's not that he's essential, obviously. There's other defenders out there, but he's just a really good pick. I think there's at least 3 of the next 6 where he's perfectly playable in. And if you get stuck having to play him in other ones, that's fine too. So Jadon Anthony at Burnley for just 5.6 million cannot stop getting goals and assists. He's started all 6 matches so far. He's averaged 88 minutes per start in those games, which is excellent. And he's already picked up 4 goals, 1 assist, which is a pretty crazy return for someone less than 6 million. And yet most of us have completely ignored him, going for like Dewsbury Hall, Stack, Xhaka, maybe even a little bit more expensive, someone like Reinders. Even Harvey Elliott popped up in people's teams recently. Jadon Anthony I've just not seen that much. If you're bench boosting in Game Week 8, he's got Leeds at home. Outside of that, Villa away this week, not terrible. Wolves away in 9, not terrible. West Ham away in 11, not terrible. There's some good fixtures coming up. So should we all rush out to buy him? Probably not. I'm a little bit sceptical about whether he can keep this up. He's definitely overperforming a little bit right now, but actually the underlying numbers are not bad. 0.37 non-penalty expected goals per 90, 0.1 expected assists. They're really good numbers. I'm telling you now, if he kept that up the whole season, he'd be in everyone's team soon. It's just whether or not he can. I think from what we've seen so far, I expect Burnley, I hate saying this so early, if you're a Burnley fan, I'm going to apologise, probably getting relegated. I think Leeds and Sunderland are a bit stronger, and I'm just not sure Burnley are going to be better than like a Brentford or a West Ham or a Wolves. So it's like, it's trying to get on board with a player in a team you think is going to get relegated to then pick up as an attacker as well. I expect Burnley's attack to not be that great over the season, but so far, he's been great. And if they are going to get a goal, he's probably going to be involved. So I think he's a good option based on what we've seen so far, but I don't think he's so good you've got to rush out and buy him. If you're on a wild card and you want to change your cheap midfielders around a little bit and include Jadon Anthony, then by all means go for it. With Reinders, for example, I've got him in my team. His minutes have been great. I expect them to continue to be so. But the more and more matches Man City play midweek, the more risk you have of him being benched. That's not going to happen with Jadon Anthony. He's just going to keep playing as long as he's fit and available. So, I don't know. If you're on wildcard or, I don't know, let's say you've got, like in my team, for example, I've got Fernandes and Dewsbury Hall. If I wanted to upgrade Dewsbury Hall, I could downgrade Fernandes to someone. And maybe Jadon Anthony's part of the combination. But that's the only way I'd be looking at it. If it's a one transfer move just to bring him in, unless you've got someone injured or suspended, I'm not sure I'd be in a rush to do it. But honestly, sub 6 million at the moment, looking pretty good. Let's talk about Jeremy Doku next at Man City. Started all 3 of the last 3 game weeks and picked up 4 assists in that time as well. And although the Burnley game is gone now, the next 4 don't look that bad. Brentford away, Everton at home, Villa away, Bournemouth at home. This is the point where I could basically record myself in the past talking about Man City attackers and just play the clip. Like, this is the exact point where I say something like this, maybe in a super robotic voice. Man City attackers are really good if they keep getting the minutes. If you're confident in the minutes, then you should bring them in. They might get benched at some point. It's just that over and over and over again. Do I think Doku starts game week 7? Yes. Can I guarantee you he keeps starting game week 8 onwards? No. The last injury update we got with players like Cherki and Marmoush is that they might be back after the international break. If that happens, you've suddenly got competition on that left wing. Like, Marmoush can play there. It doesn't mean he'll come straight in and do that, but you've got competition. And that's always... I honestly, I feel like I need to find something else to say about Man City attackers, but this is always the deal with them. There's nothing more I can say. I cannot guarantee you Doku will keep starting. There's just no way anyone can do that. Like, he's playing really well. It's obviously working for Man City, but that doesn't matter with Pep Guardiola. If he wants to change it based on opposition or because of arrest, whatever it is, he will just do that. So for 6.5 million, you can take the risk. Absolutely. It's not a massive price. Then you look at Enzo Fernandez, a little bit more money. Much safer. Fixtures coming up for Chelsea after Liverpool are really good. If Cole Palmer can't get on top of this groin problem, Enzo's going to keep playing number 10. He's a bit more expensive than Doku, and he might take penalties as well. Or for 0.1 million less, you can go and get Ismail Sarr, who's got much more goal threat. That's one thing Doku doesn't have, is goal threat. 0.14 expected goals per 90. It's pretty rubbish, right? His main threat is from assists. So you can go and get Sarr, who's more of a goal scorer, for less money, who's guaranteed minutes when he's fit and available long term. So I can never get on board with these kind of picks. Foden at the moment looks great, but obviously he's more expensive. Doku looks good too, but how long does it continue? He's just not my kind of pick. And my point in making videos is not to put people off. It's just to give my opinion. My opinion is he'll never make it into my team unless there's lots of injuries anytime soon. But it doesn't mean it has to be the case for your team. If you want to take a short-term punt or you just want to go for it, whatever, put him in your team. But he's one of those players, like Eze, I spoke about yesterday, you cannot complain when he's benched because it would not be a shock. Simple as that. But when he does start, the minutes are good, 80 minutes. So go and put Doku in your teams. I'm sure he'll be amazing. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. Check out your suggested transfers for Game Week 7 using the Fantasy Football Hub My Team tool. Links in the description below. And I'll catch you tomorrow for the Game Week preview. See you then.